First off, welcome Kimberly Musselman and Renee Torpy for being here tonight with us. This is a very friendly forum to just get to know the candidates and then we can ask some questions to them. I've also, this forum is going to be open to the audience to ask their questions. If you guys have questions, as I said previously, there's index cards in the back. Just fill those out, put it in the basket. At about 6 p.m.-ish, I'll stop my questioning. I'll take a 5-minute recess to go through those questions, and then I will ask those questions. And then we'll give the candidates their last few minutes to say their closing remarks. So we're gonna treat this forum like court and give each candidate their opening statement. Can you we'll start with Kim, just is on my right side, but Kim, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running for court, and then after, why you're running for county court seat. And then after that, Renee, you can tell us too.
All right, good evening. My name is Kimberly Musselman, and I am running for county court judge. It is really a sentimental decision for me because Judge Babb, who's retiring, I had my first jury trial in front of her back in 2004. And that was honestly what kind of prompted me to run at this point, because I would love and be honored to fill her shoes, very good shoes. So I have been here in Brevard County for over 30 years. I've worked in the court system for over 30 years in various roles. I actually came to Brevard County in 1988 to attend Florida Institute of Technology, and I got a psychology degree. But prior to graduating, I got an internship at the jail in the pretrial release program, and when I graduated, I was hired as a probation officer. So really kind of through the 90s, I served as a Brevard County probation officer. I decided in 1999 to attend law school, and I went to Widener University in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. During that time, I was hired as a judicial law clerk, because the law clerk had went out for maternity leave. And I got to work behind the scenes with a judge for 3 years. And it was like our circuit court here, but a little bit different in that 1 week we might have a medical maltrial, the next week we might have a rape trial. They really did everything, and even family law. Would have a divorce. So I really had a lot of exposure to a lot of different types of crimes, and worked with a lot of law, and I worked with a great judge. But I missed Florida, so in 2004 I returned to Brevard County. I was hired at the state attorney's office. I've been there, it will be 19 years in January. I am a very experienced prosecutor. I've worked in the trial divisions, the intake division. I was the training attorney for 5.5 years. I trained over 35 prosecutors. 6 of them are judges now. We were just here for the investiture in this room, 2 of them, a week ago. I work right now also on the first-degree homicides with Michael Hunt, and I do grand juries. So I'm one of 2 people in our county that are doing that. I have reviewed thousands of search warrants. I've reviewed 20,000 cases, worked with thousands of victims. I make really hard decisions every day in the job that I have, and I communicate that decision, to the victims, the law enforcement, and the attorneys, the defense attorneys that I work with. So in 2011, my life changed a lot. As a single mother, I became a foster mom and adoptive. I adopted my 2 children that were in foster care with me. They are now teenagers. Pray for me a little bit. They're wonderful, but that was definitely a challenge to take on. And I was doing a lot of volunteer work at the time. I'm still very much an interested volunteer, doing some of it with my children, but I took a little back role just to work on them and get them through school. And so I want to be a judge because I feel like it's the next step in my career. I feel ready for it, and I feel like it's a place I'm ready to serve the citizens of Brevard behind the bench. And I hope I can count on your vote. Thank you.
Renee?
Thank you, Jay. So my name is Renee Torpy, and it's always been my childhood dream to be a judge. I graduated from Satellite High School, and Miss Stone was my legal studies teacher, and she really pushed me and inspired me to get my education in law. I then went to BCC, which is now known as Eastern Florida, and I got my AA degree. And then I went ahead and went to UCF, and I majored in legal studies, again, knowing I wanted to be a judge one day. And I got I specialized in criminal law and individual liberties. Now, before I spent the money to go to law school, I decided I should go to a law firm and see how it works to see if I really would enjoy that type of work. So I actually worked at Hayward, Cheney & Thomas, and that was our law for a few years, about 5, and I had great mentors, and with their encouragement, I applied to law school. I got accepted. I went to Barry in Orlando, and I got a high honor certificate in trial advocacy, and I focused everything on the trial advocacy and the motions and all that, because I knew I wanted to be a trial attorney, and I knew I wanted to be a judge. So before graduation, Blaze Tredis, who's our elected public defender, he offered me a job, so I took it, and I loved it. However, knowing I wanted to be a judge, I felt I should do both sides, because judges are supposed to be unbiased and fair, and I thought practicing on both sides would nurture that. So when the opportunity presented itself, I became a prosecutor, and I practiced everything from misdemeanors to felonies to juvenile drug court, did Baker Acts. However, working at the state attorney's office, I noticed we would have the same victims again and again and again. And an opportunity presented itself at Serene Harbor, which for those of you who don't know is our certified domestic violence shelter, and they needed an injunction for protection attorney. And so I went and interviewed with them, and I loved it because they wanted to break the cycle. Anybody who's practiced in the criminal world and has dealt with batteries or domestic violence, a lot of times the case gets set for trial and then the victim recants or the victim doesn't want to testify, but then you see them back a few months or a year later. And so at Serene Harbor, I am their injunction for protection attorney, so I'll give them that injunction for protection, also known as a restraining order, to keep them protected. But we also offer many other sources, like usually their financials are messed up, so we have microloans to build their credit so they'll be able to get their own apartment. We offer counseling so they can work through all that gaslighting and emotional abuse. Then we also have relocation, so we can make sure they get to a safe spot and they know where they're safe and their families are safe. And we just offer a lot of those different programs. And we actually partner with Eastern Florida to make sure they can get a free education if they need that. Because we want to give them all the tools and the skills that they need to be successful in life to never go back to the abuser. And so I'm currently doing that job. I enjoy it. I get so many success letters from my clients that they are now living on their own and they and their families are doing well. In my quote-unquote free time, I have 2 children with my lovely husband, Doug Torpy. And we have 2 little girls, and we volunteer with everything from the Girl Scouts to the ballet. We recently went to the beach, and we taught the girls about, this was with the Girl Scouts, and did the microplastics and picked it all up and showed the girls how harmful that can be to sea life. And for the ballet, we partner with Wheels on Meals. So when we drop off the meals, the girls will do a dance. So it's dinner and a show. And I enjoy that. And then I also am the chair of the Brevard County Domestic Violence Task Force. We have every law enforcement agency, the Sheriff's Office, Salvation Army, Mission Hope, and we meet once a month and we go over any new case law. I try to let them know of any new resources. For example, there's apps on the phone that the survivors and victims can use to keep their information protected. And we talk about that and everything we can do to benefit the victims. And so I am running for Brevard County Court Judge because of my experience in both as a defense and as a prosecutor, and now as my civil work. And I feel like I know a lot about domestic violence battery. This is a county court position, so this is your misdemeanors, your DUIs, your batteries, your domestic violence batteries, and I believe I can bring those skills to the bench.
Awesome, thanks for that. All right, so the first question that the organization, that BCBA has is, as we all know, county court is considered the people's court. We have people from all walks of life coming into this courtroom. Some have attorneys, some don't. Some come in pro se. What life experiences do you bring to the table that makes you qualified or better qualified to handle county court matters? Why don't you start this one, Renee?
Sure. I would say I'm a military brat. My dad was Army. I had worked for everything I had. So I started working at McDonald's at 15. When I was going to BCC, I was working at the golf court. I was a little park girl. And I waitressed to pay my way through school. I'm happy to say I graduated undergrad debt-free. And I did that all on my own, living in a little one-bedroom apartment. And I think that's the important thing to remember is you never know what somebody's struggles are. You never know what they're going through. My stepbrother actually died from an overdose. And so I understand the struggles with the drugs, and I understand that in county court, if you have somebody come to you with a DUI, it might not just be alcohol, it might be substance abuse. And rehab might be a better solution than jail, because I have firsthand knowledge.
What about you, Kim?
Well, I would say, and I have said, I feel like I'm a people expert. I went to, Florida Institute of Technology, got a psychology degree. I worked as a mental health technician at a psychiatric facility for 3 years. I worked at a few nursing homes. I've been I told you I became a probation officer, and that was one of the most rewarding jobs I had because I had to make sure that they fulfilled their court obligations, but I got to work with them on their life skills. I got to help people, work towards getting sober, getting their driver's license, getting a job, and then when I became a prosecutor, it's kind of the same thing. We work with a variety of people. Victims sometimes are defendants, other weeks or months or whatever. And the way that I look at county court is, I think that very small percentage of criminals are really evil, truly evil. They need to be prosecuted. They need to be incarcerated. The rest of the people are problem criminals. They have a problem. They are mentally ill. They have a substance abuse problem. They're homeless. They're maybe have a jealousy problem with a relationship now. And I think if all the partners in the courtroom, and I've been in that county courtroom both as a trial attorney and as the training attorney for many, many years, if we can remove that problem, we can remove that person from county court, we won't see him again. And I feel like I'm really well versed in, handling those things and helping as, a partner in that courtroom, to have people be successful and productive. And
Awesome. Thanks, Kim. The next question that I have, as we know, county court, there's division changes. We have more county criminal judges than we have county civil judges. But when you're in the civil division, you're handling everything from landlord-tenant, uncontested divorces, debt collection issues. There's a variety of claims that come in, and now the Supreme Court is raising the jurisdictional amount. Starting January 1st, it's going to become $50,000. So anything less than $50,000 will be in county court. What experiences do you have to handle? I know we both of you have criminal experiences because you're PD and state attorney and you're state attorney. How are you guys equipped to handle if you get put in a civil division? So why don't you start this one?
I would, I know the first assignment probably will be criminal, but I'm very excited to do the civil arena. I have had experience in the civil arena, like I said, as a law clerk. And then also, I feel like a part of what I do right now is I'm an intake attorney for the Melbourne Police Department. And probably multiple times a week, they will call me in reference to cases to determine whether they are criminal, whether they are civil, whether they are family, or whether they're a combination of those matters. So I'm analyzing things right now in, whether things are, civil and helping, both helping provide statutes, case law. So I'm learning a lot about it myself. While I haven't presided over it and I haven't practiced, I jokingly say I'm a parent. I've taken the two sides and I've been able to judge the credibility, and ask the right questions, get to the heart of the matter. And then, of course, the lawyers that are in court are there to educate the judge on their sides. And I feel like, I'll be very confident and be able to handle that.
Perfect. Good.
Okay.
Sorry.
Renee.
No, I said it.
So even though I haven't practiced as an attorney, I was for a while a county certified mediator. So I did do that with people, and I would have them come in, and it was usually regarding the credit card debt and stuff like that, and we would come to an agreement. And I really enjoyed doing that.
Okay, awesome. Trial experience-wise, why don't you start just taking turns here? But why don't you can you tell the audience a little bit about the trial experiences that you bring in with jury trials, non-jury trials, a little bit about that, because as county court judge, you'll be residing over both types of
So I've done lots of DUIs, obviously being a misdemeanor court. I've tried many other cases, from exposure of sexual organs to resisting without violence to, we have batteries. We have a lot of cases. I've done quite a few. I've done probably over 16 jury trials and over 120 non-jury trials. So I've done a lot. I don't remember each and every case. However, I can say that I know the rules of evidence and I know the rules of procedure. And if you guys vote me in to be judge, I will be able to rule on your objections quickly.
I have had 31 jury trials and 6 non-jury trials. I would question the non-jury trials that my opponent says. I believe she does them through the injunction for protection hearings, and I would categorize them as hearings and not non-jury trials. When I did my trials, let's see, I think I have 19 as first chair, and then I had a unique situation because I was the training attorney. I was trying cases with brand new attorneys. It's a little bit different than the training attorney that we currently have. I was very hands-on and I was in the courtroom and helping with motions and trials. So I didn't have quite as many first chair ones because I worked with training new attorneys, and let me tell you, that is it's a rough job to have a brand new attorney proceeding in a trial. This is very challenging, but I did love it.
If I may respond to that, my non-jury trials are also in juvenile court. Juveniles do not get a jury trial. They argue just in front of the judge.
Awesome. My next question is, the Florida Constitution protects both the defendant and the victim. There's Mercy's Law, there's different types of statutes and laws in place to protect both parties. The defendant versus the victim, I mean, it's a balance that you have to kind of confirm with. So can you, I think you started last one, so Kim, why don't you start this one?
Sure, absolutely. I would say with my 19 years, the resolutions that I've seen, and even I'll give a little bit of time when I was a probation officer, because we did a lot of balancing of defendants and victims in that scenario too. So I really just have extensive experience in both misdemeanors and felonies as to what is appropriate for the victim, for the community, for society, and what is going to help the defendant either serve some punishment and or rehabilitation, or maybe rehabilitation if it's down in the county court. I have very vast knowledge on the first offender programs. I worked in pretrial diversion as a probation officer, and then I worked in pretrial diversion as an assistant state attorney. I also know a lot about all the specialty courts, our veterans court, mental health court, the drug court, we have teen court. I mean, there's a lot of things out there to serve the community well and make sure that the resolution of a case is appropriate. And of course, victim input and law enforcement input is always a very big part of that.
Awesome. Renee?
All right. So I think it's very important to remember that just because for the attorney and the judges, it's their typical Tuesday or Thursday, but for that person, either it be the victim or the defendant, that could be a life-changing day for them. And I am a perfectionist. I like to do things right and correctly the first time. And I think that's very important. So you need to make sure that the defendant is getting due process, because you don't want it to come back on appeal and waste the taxpayers' money retrying cases. So if I'm elected judge, I'm going to want to make sure that I follow that law to a T so that it's not going to come back up on appeal.
What skills would you say is required for a good judge to maintain throughout, for a county judge? What skill set would you say is a mandatory?
I would say you need to obviously follow the law. I think that's the most important thing. I think your writing and research skills are also important, because if you're hearing a motion, you need to be able to rule correctly. I've had 2 published law journal articles, and I have those online if anybody wants to read them. And I think you need to have compassionate and treat everybody with respect and dignity. You need to have compassion for the victims because of what they've gone through. Even let's say they had their property damaged, because I had a lot of those cases, and you want to make sure they're made whole. You also have compassion for the defendant and his family, or her family, because you don't know how that's going to affect them. If they're convicted, it can affect their life and how they get a job, if they can get rent, if they can, because sometimes if they have a security clearance and they're convicted, they're going to lose that security clearance, and how are they going to provide for their family? So I think it's just very important that you treat everybody with compassion, respect, and dignity.
Okay. Okay.
Well, in county court, Grant, you said it earlier, it's the people's court. People are coming in for traffic tickets, or coming in for misdemeanor offenses. Might be their first time in court. They're going to be very nervous. They don't know what's going to happen to them. I certainly have a calm demeanor, and I think I will put people at ease. I will make sure that they have an opportunity to be heard, that they feel comfortable with counsel. One of my things I never like to see as a prosecutor is somebody over there just shaking their head and listening to their defense attorney tell them, yeah, just nod your head. I didn't feel very comfortable that they understood what was going on, and I want to make sure that people that are in the courtroom that I would be presiding over would be very comfortable and understand when they walk out the door what just happened to them. I think that's extremely important. Absolutely, I'm going to treat everyone with dignity and respect. I have a lot of experience with people and de-escalating people and making them feel comfortable. And I feel like I absolutely I'm a good listener. I'm a good judge of credibility. I've been doing this a long time as a prosecutor, and I am a searcher for the truth, and that's what I would want to do as a county court judge.
Awesome. Well, final question for us, and then we'll take a couple of minute recess to get the questions from the audience, and then we'll go to this. Last question. I believe this has been both of yours first election that you've run for election, right? I think. What's the hardest part or the biggest challenge that you faced in this election process? I don't know who answered first. Okay.
I know I think I should go first.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So, what do you think has been the hardest part or the biggest challenge that you've had to overcome during this election process?
I would like to say a few things, but I'll say the time frame. It's a very short time frame, and there's a lot of activities and events and things you want to attend, and there's only one of you. So I've tried to select the best things for me to get out there and meet as many voters as I can meet in Brevard County, because we're a large county with a lot of people, and that's probably the most difficult thing is an election.
Okay. What about you?
I would say working full-time. I'm still working full-time. I'm in court 3 to 5 days a week. So trying to prep up to be prepared for court, and then also running your campaign is very time-consuming, but enjoyable.
All right, let's take a 2-minute recess. I'm going to go through the questions that our audience has, and then we'll get back and ask the questions. All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
I don't hear well. So.
Yeah, I understand.
The investiture last week
It was hard, yeah.
my wife had to whisper in my ear
Oh.
rather loud.
Yeah,
I like the part where they were raising their wrong hand.
A lot of people do that. But yeah, I'm starting to, I listen to my music really loud.
Judy Atkins one time, right before a jury selection 5 years ago, she finally comes in, will not be recorded, sees it's me, gets back up and starts walking to the little door, and I'm thinking, we've already burned an hour. What are we doing now? I was never bashful. She's going to court admin to get me some
Oh, nice.
periods. I said, if you're talking about those Mickey Mouse things, I'm not wearing those in front of that jury, not unless you put them on the stage, which
Right.
they didn't like that idea either.
Right.
I said, why would you think I needed that? She said, well, you tried one 2 months ago, and I know you missed some of the testimony. I said, I got her not guilty.
Yeah.
I got her not.
Right.
Anyway, right after that second trial, I went and got tested, and they said she was right. So I wasn't clever tonight. I didn't wear them. Unless I was in the courtroom, I didn't really think I needed them. I was probably wrong in that, but it's a vanity thing where you can
Sure.
stick them out your ears.
Yeah, I find if I have any competing noise.
Well, that's the thing. It's I can hear you, but if there's my gym rat friend that drives his Porsche mobile to the gym every day and he takes hers, he always has the radio. Well, I can't hear what.
All right, we have a variety of questions. Before I ask the questions that were given to us, I want to clarify, some of the questions will not be asked. The reason is because the candidates have to follow canons, they have to follow the JQC requirements, they are not, this is a nonpartisan race, so anything related to political beliefs or their opinion on certain things is not admissible or permissible. So I will not be asking those questions. Nothing personal, I'm sorry, but it's just, I want to make sure they don't violate any rules by asking these kind of questions, so. All right, a couple questions, let's start. This is for both of you. We're gonna, who has first last? You did first, right?
I talk first.
Okay, so you get top, right? What qualifications do you have that your opponent doesn't?
I would say doing the defense work and also practicing civil.
Okay.
I would say that I have more extensive felony experience. I was in, felony division for trials and intake, and now I'm doing grand juries. I have 3 other roles in the court system prior to being an assistant state attorney. That is that too.
If I could follow up, I've also been a victims advocate with the Women's Center, and as I mentioned earlier, I worked in Hayward, Cheney and Thomas and Alcazar Law, so those are both law firms. So I'm just not limited to just being an attorney in the system.
All right. Next question is, if elected, what would you do to improve the administration of justice in your courtroom?
So what I would like to do, being an intake and really reviewing cases and understand I'm in the felony division right now, but I file a lot of misdemeanors because a lot of cases are not worthy of felony or they don't rise to that. And I see that cases and crimes happen literally within 10 seconds or 30 seconds or a minute. I mean, they're done in that short of time. But here we are sometimes in court a year later, and that case that took 30 seconds to, transpire is still pending. And that is not good for anyone. That's not good for the defendant, the victims, the witnesses, just the whole justice system in general. So part of what I always did as a prosecutor is I documented why we were continuing cases, and I listened to the defense attorneys, and I hope to continue to do that. And I want to keep everybody, the state and the defense, when they ask for continuance, I want to keep them honest as we go along. If they are continuing to ask for continuances and there's no reasonable reason for that, then I'm hoping that I can assist them with working towards a resolution, a timely resolution that makes sense for the criminal justice system.
Renee?
I'm hardworking and I'm efficient. I think the main thing to make sure that it goes well would be you have to be open-minded. For example, when COVID hit us, we then switched to virtual courts. I think the majority of us have never done that, so I think it's important to be able to do that with times. Even now, if we have a witness who's out of state and they've been exposed to COVID and they can't fly in, and we don't want to hold up court, then we'll just ask the other sides if they'll consent, and usually they won't have an objection, and the witness can just appear by Teams or Zoom on the TV and be able to testify. So I just think it's important that you be open-minded and willing to try new things to make sure everything stays efficient and continues moving on.
Okay, awesome. Next question again is for both of you. Renee, why don't you start this one? How will you avoid appearance of partiality in cases that involve individuals or organizations with whom you have personal or political relationships with?
I answered this question one too many times. It's on my Facebook page, so I would ask whoever wrote that question to please go to Renee Torpy for a judge on Facebook.
Okay. Kim, same thing?
Well, I know just obviously from my practice, there are opportunities for the judge to, address any conflicts that the judge has. Obviously, the parties that would come before me, if they felt that there was any kind of conflict too, can raise that. So there's lots of avenues for, both me, if I'm elected judge, and parties that are before me to address the case so that, they can decide if they want to move from a courtroom or if I feel I should not preside over it.
Okay. Next question. This is for Renee. How long were you a public defender for, and the state attorney's office for, and Serene Harbor for?
I don't have all the exact dates. Probably about 2 to 3 years at the PD's office, and I believe about 3-4 years at the state attorney's office. And I've been with Serene Harbor since 2020. But it's on my LinkedIn page. It's on multiple different things that you can look up.
Okay. Kim, how long have you been, how long were you in law clerk for, and how long have you been in the state attorney's office for?
I was a law clerk for 3 years, and I will celebrate 19 years at the state attorney's office in January of 2023.
Okay.
If I could go back to that question, I pulled up my LinkedIn so I can give them the correct dates. So I actually started at Alcazar Law in 2007 and went to 2011. Before that, I was at Hayward, Cheney, and Thomas. I then, when I was in law school, I worked as a certified legal intern from May 2013 to August 2013, so that was 4 months. Then, while in law school, I worked as a certified legal intern at the Environmental and Earth Law Clinic from August 2013 to December 2013, so that was 5 months. I then worked as a paid legal research assistant at Barry University School of Law from June 2013 to May 2014. I was then a paid legal intern at Nance Cacciatore. For those of you who don't know, that is a personal injury law firm. And I worked there from March 2014 to August 2014, so for 6 months, and that too was when I was in law school. And then in August of 2014 until April of 2017, so for 2 years and 9 months, I was assistant public defender And from April 2017 to November 2020, so 3 years and 8 months, I was an assistant state attorney. And then, as I previously stated, I have been an injunction for protection attorney at Serene Harbor since November of 2020.
Okay, thank you, Renee. And then, I'm not going to ask those questions. I think those are the only questions that we have right now. Is there, I want to thank both of you guys for being here this evening.
For having us.
Thank you so much, everyone, for attending.
Why not ask questions? There was more in the basket than what you just asked.
I understand, but some of the questions may violate the canons, and I
would like to ask a question for myself.
mean, if you want to ask it, the candidate wants to answer it, that's on them, but I personally will not be engaging.
Some of us don't have social media. Instead of just telling us to go to social media, can you guys answer some questions instead of telling us to go to social media? I don't have LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. So I don't have access to.
You don't need to be a member to access our Facebook pages.
I'm blocked
But I'm
for
right
years.
here tonight, so I would love to hear your answer to the questions instead of telling you to go to. So if I came here tonight to hear answers, and so instead of telling you to go to social media, I'm here in person. Why are you talking about it?
That's what I thought this was for, a debate, questions, public
I don't
involvement.
even need it to be a debate, I just came for fun. I wanted to meet both of you and form a good opinion but if you're not gonna answer the questions when I'm here in person, I'm really confused why I came. I came because I don't follow social media. So I'm just confused why I can't answer the questions instead of telling us to go to social media.
I have a question about the juvenile drug court, and I don't think that violates Canon 7.
Okay, well, let's take 1 minute short recess, and then let me speak to the candidates and see how we want to handle it, and then I will come back right back. Again, I'm not trying to evade you guys by any means. I want to make sure everyone's questions are answered, but I also don't want to put the candidates in a position where they violate any canon rules or create. So that's why I'm playing it this way. So I'm playing it safe. Just give me a minute. Let me speak to them, and then we'll see how we want to address this. All right. Thank you, guys. Yes. All right, unfortunately, any questions that you guys may have that are not asked, I apologize. We are not allowed to ask those questions right now. It avoids any issues. If you do want to ask it, the candidates' email addresses are on their websites. Please email them and they will try their best to respond to you. But unfortunately, I'm in a position where I cannot ask those.
So you already asked the question, she just didn't answer. You already asked the question. The question I'm wondering, it was already okay and you asked it, but she just told us to go to the Facebook page to get the answer. I'm confused by that.
I understand, ma'am, but that is the answer. So unfortunately, if you can review it, I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, at this position,
Okay, would the candidate maybe want to amplify the answer for her benefit? Or
So it doesn't matter whose endorsement I have, that's not gonna affect how I rule on the bench. My job as the judge is to follow the laws and to follow the Constitution, and that's what I would do.
I don't think that was
the question was, how will you avoid the appearance of partiality in cases that involve individuals or organizations with whom you have personal and political relationship with? And I
mean, both of us have multiple constitutional officers endorsing us. Both of us have multiple attorneys. Even if an attorney endorses you and gives you money, they're still allowed to appear in front of you in court. So it's just, this is typical of judicial campaigns.
I was just confused because of the Facebook incident. I just, no, I mean, I just was confused by that.
Is there any other questions right now, guys?
Jay, I put my best questions in writing and I didn't hear them. I'm profoundly deaf.
That tells me what I need to know.
I understand that.
I have a question. I'm really, I'm sorry, I'm okay.
Well, thank you all for coming this evening. This will be it for this evening. If you guys have questions, you can email the candidates and they'll try their best to respond. Thank you.